And now, a reading from a true American classic, Pokemon and Harry Potter, an exposé of the secret war against the youth of America. Pokemon is now the world's most popular instructor to children on how to enter into the dark domain of occult power and practice. Pokemon's objective is to teach children how to use powers to capture and conquer various monsters. Then, with their captured monsters in their pockets, they can increase their own powers. Fundamentally, this is training our children how to enter into and participate in a world of demonic activities.
What the fuck?
This was written by Pastor Phil Arms, who you might recognize from this viral gem.
So Pokemon is a game that teaches children how to enter into the world of witchcraft, how to cast spells, how to use psychic phenomena, how to put to work supernatural powers against their enemies, how to fantasy role play. Pokemon world is a world of the demonic, of the satanic. But while you might not take it quite seriously, I assure you that demons take it quite seriously.
And yeah, the rest of this book is just as wild as that passage. But this video won't solely focus on this. Frankly, it's lazily written, bigoted, and the arguments Arms presents are so vapid that they're honestly not even worth engaging with. But it's also fucking hilarious. Arms' main argument is that Pokemon is a means by occultists, New Age thinkers, and Satanists to lure American children away from the path of Christianity. That may sound like the raving proclamations of a man who's using his church's donations to fuel his addiction to opioid painkillers, which, spoiler alert, that's exactly what's happening. But Arms is far from the only person to accuse Pokemon of being some kind of secret means to facilitate a nefarious agenda. I grew up around a highly religious evangelical Christian neighborhood, and I can confidently say from experience that these beliefs tend to be pretty commonplace within these communities. Ever since its inception, Pokemon has been the subject of various controversies, both legitimate and not so much. If you follow the trends of when Pokemon has been at its most popular, a new moral panic surrounding the series was always right around the corner. But why?
Why? Why?
What is it about Pokemon that draws so much ire from some type of people, and why are there almost always bad actors like Phil Arms ready to take advantage of a moral panic to exploit it for profit? It has been repeatedly proven that many children, as well as teens and young people, once initiated into the world of role-playing games, soon begin to lose the capacity to distinguish between the real world and fantasy. Pokemon was far from the first game to stir up a moral panic amongst concerned or worried parents. Dungeons & Dragons was subject to a little bit of mass hysteria surrounding the game's vaguely occultist aspects, largely in part to the fact that it came to prominence during the height of the satanic panic in the United States during the 1980s. Some religious figures accused the tabletop game of being a recruitment tool for Satan, with similar charges being laid against heavy metal, horror films, and MTV. You know, I think they were just a few years off with that last one. Moral panics are characterized by widespread and irrational fear over something that is believed to be a threat to society, usually spread by misinformation in mass media and exacerbated by state and thought leaders. Oftentimes, moral panics are used by those in power to justify legislation or restrictions. So when Pokemon took over the entire fucking world in the late 90s, certain religious groups were already primed for viewing this kind of thing as immoral or evil. So imagine you're an evangelical Christian adult, already weary of things like Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, and this monster collecting game comes in from Japan that seemingly takes over the mind of every single child in the country. I'm not saying their line of thinking was correct, but when you see kids getting into fights, having mass seizures, and even killing each other over this stuff, and you're already primed to view these things through an extremely religious lens, making the jump into old Mr. Satan being behind it makes sense. As for what exactly were the issues with Pokemon, a paper written in 2000 by American evangelical minister William J. Schobelin sums it up pretty well. Pokemon features various occult elements: ghosts, psychic powers, elemental stones, the ability to stay 10 years old for 3 fucking decades. The series encourages players to become Pokemon masters, which I guess goes against the Bible because apparently only Jesus can actually collect all 151 Pokemon. The series' use of evolution goes against creationism and teaches kids about the evil science of Darwinism because apparently evolution is an anti-biblical science fiction concept with no more truth to it than Tinkerbell. But the big crux of the issue is that Pokemon teaches kids to control and master demons, using their powers for their own purposes, eventually leading them down the path of Satan and away from God. So, who is this William J. Schnoebelen anyway? Well, on top of apparently witnessing a demon destroy a magician once, he basically makes his living scaring the shit out of evangelical Christians, so they'll go to his website and buy the plethora of books, DVDs, and audio files denouncing everything from other forms of Christianity, vaccines, and doctors? Oh my god, these fucking people. At the same time, friend of the show Phil Arms would also pen his masterpiece novel, parodying many of the same talking points. His sermons and books sold an image of a world on the brink of destruction. Pokemon was here to hypnotize the youth into the world of humanism, occult, and Satan. In June of 2000, the Houston Press would publish a story surrounding Arms and his church, revealing that the pastor had been addicted to opioid painkillers for years and was using donations from the church to pay for the drugs. It's almost like Arms had a vested interest in keeping his parish scared and to view him as an authority figure on how these seemingly innocent things were actually evil so he could funnel the church's money into his drug addiction. Now, American evangelical Christians weren't the only ones who thought the Pokemons was bad. In 2000, Saudi Arabia ended up banning Pokemon from the entire country, claiming that the series promoted Zionism and gambling. The former being as baseless as the evangelical concern about the series promoting Satanism, and the latter, yeah, they might have been onto something there. In the more religious parts of South Africa, many schools and kids were banned from owning Pokemon collectibles, as well as Harry Potter novels and D&D. The country even had its own occult police force at one time. However, the Pope ended up giving Pokemon the okay back in 2000, and like any other moral panic, the Pokemon demon craze quickly died out. Then Pokemon Go happened. In the world of Pokemon and that of the New Agers, the occultists and the Wiccans' right and wrong are determined by individual choice. This deadly philosophy is being ingrained into the thinking of millions of children, whose parents are failing to get involved in their child's Saturday morning television viewing habits. The release of Pokemon Go saw a resurgence in popularity of the series that closely mirrored the original Pokemania back in the 90s. Seriously, like, everyone was doing it. Around this time, Pastor Creflo Dollar, an American televangelist, released a quote-unquote study finding a link between Pokemon and the rise in homosexuality in the Western world. The study claimed that many people who grew up from 1985 to 1990 can directly trace their homosexuality back to the series. Yeah, because apparently gay people didn't exist before 1985. The study goes on to show several examples of Pokemon that were designed to turn kids gay or something. Like, apparently Bulbasaur looks like a boob, and that's enough to make men question their attraction to women. Weedle looks like a penis. Charmander is constantly playing with his tail. And Mew is androgynous? Does anyone else think that the fact that Creflo Dollar pulls all of this out of cartoon monsters says way more about him than anything else? By the way, if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because this was the guy who begged people to donate to his church so he could buy a $65 million private jet. Apparently Satan or Pikachu or some shit took his last one. As Pokemon Go took over the entire world in the summer of 2016, many once again viewed the game as some kind of tool for Satan, Islam, or whatever the villain of the day was. Saudi Arabia reinstated the previous ban they had put on Pokemon, citing it as un-Islamic and promoting evolution, Christianity, and Zionism. A Russian conspiracy theorist claimed Pokemon Go was created by the CIA as a means to spy, and the more conservative religious parts of the country once again went back to the Satan well. A state-run Russian news program warned players that using the app in churches or on the country's borders could result in criminal penalty, which actually ended up happening when a 22-year-old blogger was arrested for playing Pokemon Go in a church. While no legislation was enacted back in the States, fervor around Pokemon Go and Pokemon in general began ramping up like the good old days of 1999. Far-right pastor and conspiracy theorist Rick Wills claimed that the app was a tool for Satan, meant to be given to radical Muslims to track and target Christians, despite the fact that, arguably the most Islamic country on the planet had banned the game. He also said that the game would probably start to tell its users to start killing people after a while, but you know what, compared to some of the other shit this guy has said, the Pokemon Go stuff is almost charming. What is he selling, by the way? Well, he has a whole network of true news podcasts, and apparently you can donate precious metals to him through his website. The attraction but deadly lure of a book series like Harry Potter and games like Pokemon is their seemingly positive and harmless appearance. The heroes and their goals all seem to be moving towards creating a better world. The not-so-hidden message in their storylines is their claim to be able to answer life's questions and to solve all our problems without considering the solutions and answers that are clearly given in the Word of God. In fact, the message of these and many other new children's games and entertainment vehicles is diametrically opposed to the message we have in Christianity. People use moral panics to retain and gain power and control. Sometimes it's in the form of state legislation, sometimes in the form of religious zealotry. What we have to always keep in mind is that the people who say Pokemon is evil almost always have an agenda. This isn't banal concern, it's a targeted effort by grifters to scare people into believing their worldview and give them money. Whether that's to get a $65 million jet or obtain some pills, these people are not acting in good faith. So why use Pokemon as a means to gain power? Simply because it's popular. It's hard to understand if you weren't around during Pokemania or Pokemon Go's launch, but this shit was everywhere. And what if you're someone who doesn't get it? The masses around you are enjoying and playing with this thing that just does not make sense to you. But it can't be that you're disconnected from the culture, right? People like Phil Arms are taking advantage of those who feel lost. People who see the widespread cultural adoption of something they don't understand and are scared. They may have had uneasy feelings about Pokemon, but ultimately thought it was a harmless kids thing. Then this guy comes around telling them how it's actually secretly evil. They feel vindicated, and if he was able to pick out the subtle evil messaging behind Pokemon, what else might he know? We better listen to this guy. The sad truth of it is that this probably will not be the last time we'll hear about Pokemon being evil within our lifetimes. And if it's not Pokemon, it'll be tabletop RPGs, card games, or some other nonsense. Because the fear of the world changing and not looking like the one you grew up in will always be there. And people like Phil Arms exploit that fear, telling them the culture hasn't left them. The culture is evil, and you're the righteous one for standing up against this. And you can fight the good fight just a bit better by buying my book.